Hey, what's up, guys? This is Big Mike. Alright, in this video, I want to address something that I see brought up a lot. I've seen it brought up as far as making arguments for and against players, and I see it brought up, I think, erroneously when comparing players of long past to players of the modern era. And it's the most basic stat that we can think of as far as determining how great the scorer a guy is, aside from scoring average. And that's field goal percentage. And as we all know, field goal percentage is field goals made divided into field goals attempted. And over a period of time, field goal percentage is a very accurate indicator of how good a guy is at scoring. Now, of course, a player who plays closer to the basket, like a center or a power forward, a guy who plays in the post, normally has a higher field goal percentage than a perimeter player. That's just by nature, although it's not always the case. But generally speaking, that's how it is. A guy like Kareem, Kevin McHale, uh, Daryl Dawkins, Shaquille O'Neal, Mark West, um, all of them have had field goal percentages between 55 and 58% for their career. That's a very high percentage. The all-time record holder is Artis Gilmore, who shot just a hair under 60% for his career. That's tremendous. And in fact, I believe Artis led the league in field goal percentage, I want to say 4 consecutive seasons, including a high of 68% one year. Then on the flip side, you have some players who are volume scorers. Guys who, if you look at their scoring average, they look like some of the best scorers the game has ever seen. And if you look at their field goal percentages, you see that they had to take a lot more shots to get their points. The first one that comes to mind would be a guy like Kobe Bryant. He was at best an average scorer who, don't get me wrong, he was a tremendous scorer in the sense that he could get hot and he could have some phenomenal individual scoring performances. But generally, as far as his career percentage is concerned, he was an average scorer, 45%. Larry Bird once said something to the fact that a guy in his era, a guy shooting 45% for a season would be benched. Then another guy who shot an even lower percentage would be Allen Iverson. Although, I have said this before, given his size and the sheer amount of shots that he took, for him to shoot 42.5% for his career is not that bad, especially if you compare it to a guy like Tracy McGrady, who I think, going off my mind now, my memory, I think he shot a little over 43% for his career. And we're comparing a guy, McGrady, in his prime, who was 6'7" and 220 pounds, 210, 220 pounds, or 6'8", to a guy like Allen Iverson, who's listed at 6 feet, really more like 5'10" and a half, and 160, 165 pounds. So Allen Iverson, don't get me wrong, he was a volume scorer, but over time, as I analyze his career and look at certain other factors, I think if he was 6 inches taller and 60 pounds heavier, he would have been a much more effective player. But be as it may, the guy's going to be a Hall of Famer when eligibility comes for him. But let me go back to the premise, the basic premise of this video is I want to talk about field goal percentage as opposed when you're talking about the early days. And I think a lot of these guys get a bad rap. All right, a really bad rap. Um, Generally, all these guys uh, shot 40%, some even in the high 30s. The very first uh, seasons, it was not even uncommon for players to shoot in the mid 30s as far as percentages. Um, then throughout the 1950s, it improved a lot. Basically, the average field goal percentage probably was around 40% or so. And the first player to shoot 50% in a season was Will Chamberlain. And I think he did that the year that he averaged 50. 1961-62 season. I believe he shot. I might be a little off. I think he shot 50.6% from the field that year. And so why is it that these players shot like that? Why was the field goal percentage so low? Well, I remember reading something that Dolph Shea said, one of the great power forwards of the late 40s and 1950s, and he was saying that he often wondered at himself, comparing to the guys of today, and he thinks that it has to do with the conditions of the court. The lighting a lot of times was not very good. The rims were very tight. Didn't have the same type of equipment. A lot of times the basketballs that they used were not all the way fully inflated. Sometimes, just different things like that. Of course, players, the traveling was not as first class as this today as it was back then, I should say. Um, a lot of different things different points that he brought up. And, the traveling probably took its toll on a lot of these guys, and they didn't get a lot of rest. They probably played a lot of games in a short period of time, and it probably took its toll on these guys, and they wore down. One thing that I think may also play a factor, and this is just a theory of mine, players today make a whole lot of money. Some of them, I think, make way too much money. And during the off season, these guys don't have to worry about getting a second job. Maybe some of the very lower tier guys who make minimum, who don't know how to handle money, maybe they have to worry about other means of income. But as long as the strike's not going on and the checks are coming, these guys don't have to worry about, finding a second and third job. You know what I mean? Back then, these guys weren't playing for the money. I tell you that. These guys are playing for the love of basketball. If they wanted to worry about money, these guys would use their degrees and try to go out and other means and made a lot more money than playing for basketball. So when the basketball season was over, these guys had to find other means of work. And I'm willing to believe that while they were working, they probably spent very little time working on their game. Maybe some of them did, but a lot of them didn't. And by the time the season started, they probably were extremely rusty, and their shots suffered. I'm willing to believe that it was probably very common back in the 50s for the first month or so. maybe 3 weeks, it probably was very common for players to shoot badly and for teams to have pretty ugly games. And I'm going to bring up something to emphasize my point here. Anybody who remembers the first strike that we had in 1999, right? A lot of these guys weren't practicing. Remember that? And remember, that's when Sean Kemp put on all that weight and ruined his career. And a lot of these guys weren't practicing. Remember how ugly those games were the first month of the abbreviated season? Remember that? Remember how it wasn't uncommon for a final score to be 75 to 68 or some shit like that? And these guys, a lot of these guys had terrible field goal percentages. I think Allen Iverson led the league in scoring at 26.7 points per game that year. That's one of the lowest scoring averages to lead an individual season. Now imagine that back in the 50s every year. That's my theory. I think that one of the reasons why the field goal percentages were so low, these guys did not have time to practice as players do now, year in and year out. So are players better shooters today than they were back then? Yeah, because they have more time to practice. Alright. But I'll tell you one thing. You put Bill Sharman, an 88.4% career free throw shooter. You put Bill Sharman in today's game, give him all of the resources that these guys have now, and I'm pretty sure that that guy had a hell of a work ethic, alright? Give him a contract. He doesn't have to worry about trying to get a side job to feed his family. And I guarantee you that Bill Sharman will probably be a star in this league. I know some of you guys saying, oh, you're just one of those guys that live in the past and talk about these old guys and put them on a pedestal and all that. Well, look, I just made a video saying how I don't think Bill Walton was a great NBA player, and I'm taking heat for that. But I'm a guy who I'm always going to say what I believe. Maybe sometimes people agree with it, maybe they don't, but I don't care about that. I'm always going to say what I believe on my channel. And I believe that field goal percentage in that era is not an accurate indication of how good a player some of these guys were. You put them in today's league, give them all the nutritional supplementation that these guys have today. You give them all the equipment, you give them all the practice time. You take the worry of trying to feed their families by using other economic means, take that away from them, make these guys financially secure and to be able to practice. Bob Pettit would be a 50% plus field goal shooter. All right, Bill Sharman would be at least a 47% field goal percent shooter. All right, probably be a tremendous three-point shooter. All right, field goal percentage in that era is overrated. That's all I got to say about that.